Welcome to episode number 27 with Lesley Moffat, who's a music teacher for 37 years and has a very inspirational fitness journey, fitness story. So thank you for joining us today, Lesley. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you, Jonathan.
And actually, to jump right in, taking it way back, what state are you in?
I'm in the state of Washington,
Nice. Did you always live in Washington, or what brought you to Washington?
except for when I went to college. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest here in this area. Went to college in Indiana because their music school was so phenomenal. And then after graduating and getting married, wanted to raise kids close to where grandparents would be. So moved back out in this area, and we've been here since.
That's amazing. I see so many, videos about how beautiful. I've been to Northern California, but I haven't made it quite up that far. Well, Seattle once, but
Well, I'm Seattle.
okay, beautiful up there.
Yeah, and if you're into outdoor fitness stuff, the hiking, just all of it, it's just gorgeous.
Ah, that's amazing. Wow. Well, what inspired you to get into music?
Well, my grandmother was a music teacher. My dad was a high school band director, and I grew up around the high school band as my babysitters, and we went to all the events and stuff, and I loved it. That was my life, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and so it's all I ever wanted to do.
Music is powerful.
It is in so many different ways. I mean,
Yes.
socially and what it can do for our bodies. We can talk about that a little later, like vibrationally and just playing it, and yeah, all of the things.
Yes, no, I definitely want to talk about that for sure. I'm curious with working with middle schoolers for 37 years. Was that the age group you wanted to work with that you're passionate about working with, or do you like
Actually,
teaching all ages?
I just recently went to middle school. For 35 years, I taught high school band. And those 35 years, I had three children and raised them and taught high school band and had my first class that started at 6:30 every morning. And I would do all the nighttime events. And then 3 years ago, I said, God, I'm almost 60. It's time to not do all that. So I moved to the middle school level so I didn't have all the evening and outside activities. So high school band was my dream. That's what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to raise my own kids in the community and have them in my program, and I did that. So it's something I'm pretty passionate about. But middle school is where it's at now.
That's amazing. And teaching is such an important career. Teaching the next generation, it's so valuable. So I really respect that, the dedication for 37 years. What is your fundamental why, would you say, that drives you in general with, career, with helping others, with your passion?
I love to help other people. Like maybe that's the nurturing, the mom. I love being a mom and all of those things. And I love music. And you can help people. I say I'm a music teacher, but really what I'm doing is helping kids become the best versions of themselves through the magic of music education. And it's such a great way to teach social skills. Do you think our people on this planet don't need to know how to get along with others and work in teams and do those things? We're falling apart out there. And here we're teaching those skills where you have to learn to be patient and work with others and take your turn and do those things, or you can't have an ensemble play together. So they learn these life skills. And I'm as passionate about that part as I am the music, honestly. I'm building a
Wow.
community, which is band nerds in our little area, and it becomes a band family. And as a music teacher, I get to have students not just for 1 year, but year after year after year. So I watch them go from just dorky little turds to developing into something, and then later I go to their weddings and I hold their babies and just all the things. And so
Wow.
it's a really really remarkable career path because it's different than regular teaching, just in that whole way you develop all the relationships with the outside of school activities and then travel, taking the kids to perform at Disneyland and Carnegie Hall. I mean, that's pretty fun.
Wow, that sounds amazing. The community that, you helped build. That's amazing. Wow. And I never thought about it, but you're right. Music is so symbolic of life with learning how, like an ensemble, everyone has to be playing together and working together and practicing prior to that together. So it's like it really does teach teamwork and hard work, dedication, all of those skills.
And I think it's also great when you think about life. We all bring, we have saxophones and trumpets and French horns, and all the different instruments come together to create something beautiful. And as people, we all bring something different to the table too. We could work together and bring that same synergy elsewhere. I think we could live in a better planet. So that's my little corner of the world, trying to help kids understand that so they can take it out in the world, maybe make it a little better.
I love that because everyone has their own gifts. For sure. So true. So true. I remember growing up, I was always very creative, and I was trying to fit in regards to being good in math, which was a weakness, and I had such a hard time in math. And it took me years to realize that, you really can't compare apples and oranges and how everybody has their own path. And yeah, it's true. You just have to learn to appreciate everyone and including yourself and the gifts that you have. So true. I wanted to ask you with music, with the frequency, the vibration, the mental aspect, how do you think it affects development for children and adults?
Well, it's so interesting because I really didn't start thinking about it in this way until like the last 7 or 8 years. Because I always thought, when you're playing music together, yeah, it feels good and you're having all that. But my friend Lori, who had, she was the reason inspired me to write my first book, but she had cancer, ovarian cancer, and one of the doctors that she had seen did stuff with frequencies, listening to specific frequencies because our bodies, I don't have to tell you this, all the water in our bodies, it vibrates, right? It resonates with whatever we're hearing, and it can be positive or negative. And I use vibrations now all the time. I listen to different frequencies. I have them going on in the background. There are certain ones that will help me sleep better, focus for you can use binaural beats to help you get more focused for studying or learning. In my classroom every day, I take the first 4 minutes of class. If you might imagine high school or middle school, they come in 50 of them at a time with instruments. It's a little chaos, right? And so I take the first 4 minutes of every class and I put 528 hertz over the PA system, which if you're into that, it's the heart chakra vibration. And we put that on every day. My students hear that pitch, and then I shut the lights off and we do breath work together for 4 minutes. And it takes their heart rate is like their metronome, right? And we do measurements. I tell them, let's do our biometrics, and they'll take their heart rate when they come in and they're all jacked up. Then we'll do the 4 minute breath work. And then they'll take their heart rate again, and they can see how it's calmed them down, and the whole atmosphere is different. So that vibration that comes over the speakers combined with the breath work and the calming down of the body and giving students the opportunity to learn to reset their own central nervous systems, it's super powerful, and it helps me as a teacher keep my own sanity too, because it helps me reset with the kids. So
Yes.
before we play music, we use music in that same way.
That's amazing. And I've got so many questions. I know that binaural beats I'll use to study, and it really does help with focus and clearing.
Yeah, the different brain wave lengths that you get in the deep sleep. Have you ever listened at night when oh my gosh, put on something for sleep frequencies? You'll go
Really?
into a coma. It is delightful. And you wake up going, oh, I could do anything. Yeah, I cannot stress enough. Somebody asked me as a music teacher, I was at a conference, and they said, so what have you been listening to in the jazz world lately? And I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I don't have an answer, because I looked at my playlist. All I'm listening to these days is the frequencies, and it's so healing. My own health journey used to involve pills, lots of pills and lots of alcohol to help me feel better. And now I literally use frequencies and breath work and no pills.
Wow, that is amazing. I've got so many questions. First, I was going to ask you your friend. How did it work out for your friend with the frequencies? Did she have a lot of progress with that?
It helped for a while, but ultimately
Good,
the cancer was too far progressed. But by the time she was able to use it, she did talk about how it helped. She felt calm, and that
good.
the mental state when you can, again, it slows the heart rate down, different frequencies. And there are, if you do much studying in it, there are frequencies that help bodies heal. There are frequencies that, like, it's crazy. There's a whole world out there I didn't know about until like 7 years ago. And I always knew music was powerful, but I didn't understand how it's built into us. I mean, it's part of how we operate. It's crazy. And
S-
it's amazing.
So fascinating. It really is. I didn't know about any of that until recently. Even more recently, a friend was talking about frequencies, and then I came across how bells, church bells, and how bells.
Yes, and then it was 432 hertz back in the day. Do you know this whole
Oh,
conspiracy?
no, no, I don't know that.
Oh, yeah, but the 432 was the tuning, if you will. Now we tune to 440 vibrations per second for an A, and that is not in our bodies is not good. And so if you listen to music that's tuned at 440, your body responds much differently than the stuff we use now. And I don't know how true it is. I don't want to start any of that, but apparently it was intentionally done many, many years ago to have more control of, no, people will need more help, more medicine, more other things if we can keep them on edge and edgy. And there's something to those different frequencies. I believe there's.
Interesting. Yeah, there's no bells anymore. You don't see bells anywhere.
No, I know, because they would ring them and those frequencies would go out. And yeah, it's a big part of what was part of communities even, because it would just resonate so that everybody like could be on attuned to that same vibrational frequency.
What I it's very interesting because here in America you rarely ever, I mean, more recently don't see bells anywhere. And when I would go to Greece, my dad's from Greece, and we would go to Greece, and of course they have the church bells. So I feel like other countries aren't as I don't want to say controlling in that sense, but so crazy. Wow. Your fitness journey. I'm excited to ask you. So how I remember last time we talked, you mentioned how working out saved your life. And so I'm curious to take it way back. Where did your story begin with your inspirational story begin?
Well, I loved my job, but it was killing me. I loved it so much it became an unhealthy obsession. And so to do the job I wanted to do and build this huge program in this high school with all the things, I stopped or I never did anything that would benefit my own self because I was busy doing other things. So yes, we always had sit down meals at my family and the like, but and those were fine. But I didn't really understand nutrition and how that impacts our brain and why my body didn't feel good a lot of the time. And I didn't have time to figure it all out. So I'd go to the doctor. I was in pain. He'd write a prescription for pain pills. The amount of pain pills I was on, oh my God, I should be dead.
Really?
Great opioids. Well, I've had 14 major surgeries. Like I have lots of titanium in my neck and on my back, and my hips have been
Wow.
replaced, and my feet. Yeah, it was a hot mess, and I was 75 pounds heavier than I am now. Lots of inflammation. That meant that my body hurt all the time because my joints couldn't support that weight, and so there were more pills, right? More pills for the inflammation, more pills for this. And I one day I asked my doctor, I'm like, what's causing the inflammation? He's like, probably stuff you're eating. Why don't I change that?
Wow.
Oh my God. And he's like, but it was pill after pill. And anyway, it was 2017, the year 2017, springtime, right about this time of year. And my body and my brain I just couldn't make another decision. I was overstimulated. Was again having surgeries. My best friend was dying. I was feeling like crap. And I'm like, I stopped working. I had to use my sick leave and family medical leave because I just couldn't work at that point. And I went to the doctor again, and he got out the prescription pad pretty much before I even started talking.
That's crazy.
And so I don't even know what he wrote the script for. I left the building and threw it in the garbage and went home and said to my husband, I have to do something different. And my husband's like, want me to make an appointment for you for acupuncture? And I'm like, well, that sounds kind of crazy. What is that stuff? And I said, okay. And he did. And it was interesting. I was like, this is different. And no prescription afterwards, but just a little, I don't know, felt a little more alive. And then my husband said, would you like to go to yoga? I'm like, no, I'm not very athletic. I'm terrible at stuff. But I did. I went with him, and I really kind of liked it, except Shavasana, because I couldn't shut my brain off. I'm like, I'm too busy to lie here and just, be quiet at the end. And yeah, you know how that is. And couldn't get my mind to quiet down. But you know what? I was fascinated with what if I went and tried again and again. And I did. And I started to find that these things I had never done before made me feel a little different. And so, very long story short, I sought the help of naturopaths, of counseling, and I did the things that I could do safely to come off all of those medications, anxiety, depression, sleep meds, and pain pills and everything. I haven't touched alcohol in, well, that's been 14 years. And as I was making those changes, and my doctor had told me inflammation is so much about what you eat. I'm like, well, I'm going to just start trying different things and see what happens. And through, I would do process of elimination, not eat something for a little while. And then did I feel any different? And kept track of those things. I would write them down. Hey, felt really tired after this meal. What were the things I was noticing? And pretty soon I started to realize, fast forward 4 or 5, 6 months, I had dropped 75 pounds. I was feeling like a whole different human being. My mind was clearer, and I was ready to go back to school that next fall.
It's amazing.
And so I was just like, there were really four main things that I did. And it was I took a mindful approach to my meals, to the movement I did in my body, and to music and how I could use music. And the focus on those four areas, 90% of my progress. And then applying what as a musician you do, where you learn something and then you practice it until it becomes a habit. And that's what I did. And was it hard? Hell yes, it was hard. But you know what else is hard? Being sick, feeling
Yes.
like crap, and hauling around
Yes.
weight that is uncomfortable. That's hard too. So I just picked a different hard. And boy, am I glad I did, because I'm going to be 60 pretty soon. And I feel better at 60 than I did in my 20s and 40s.
That's amazing. That is such an inspirational story. because you did the work to literally find out what was making you feel tired, what was making you feel inflamed. You went food item by food item and became more. You did all the work, and you got off all those prescription medications.
My acupuncturist said, in nature, if a tree branch breaks off or something goes wrong, you don't just, we don't go out and fix it. It fixes itself. Our bodies are meant to do this. So we have to open up the channels that let it do it. We have to give it the right fuel so it can do that. And that's how I learned how acupuncture does all of that with the connections. And I started becoming fascinated with that and led me down lots of rabbit holes, which some of it was good, but okay, but a lot of really good stuff out there that has just helped me turn my life around, and now I can help other people do it. That's what teachers do,
Yeah,
right? We learn how to do something, and then we want to help other people do it.
that's amazing. Really, you're an example of what everyone needs to do because there's so many people in America that, feel hopeless and feel like they don't know where to start. That's what was the biggest challenge, would you say, with that, with the beginning?
The eating part, because everybody
Okay.
else is eating other stuff, and I'm a mom. I feed people. It's what I do, and not everybody's interested in kale and whatever. But I I learned how to, when I have people over, I just make sure I've got stuff that I can eat, but I can still do that for them. Going out was hard at first. How do I know what I can eat that's not going to make me feel like crap? But I started to see patterns. Anything that's processed is going to have those oils in them that aren't good for me. Anything that's got wheat in it has gluten, and gluten is part of what caused all that inflammation in my body.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't for everybody. My husband can eat it and it's fine. Not
True,
all of us.
everyone's a little different.
I know, and there's the thing, all of our bodies are different. And so for me, I didn't write a book saying, here's what you should do, Jonathan, just so you can, I don't know. But I can say, here's how you can figure out what you could do. Here are some questions you can ask yourself, some observations you can make, how you can keep track of those. And here are then some action steps you can take based on what you've done, to learn about yourself. So
Absolutely.
our
Uh,
it's
oh no, I was just gonna say the book that you wrote. What is the name of your book?
well, my first book is called I Love My Job, but It's Killing Me. And that's because my friend Lori and I would sit there literally at her chemo appointments with our laptops so we could get work done. I remember one time she's like, oh, I love my job, but it's killing me. She's trying to set up some stuff for her substitutes and stuff. And I'm like, why aren't we even in this situation at this point, right? There's no other resources. Who's going to jump in and do our jobs and cover the hundreds of students that come through our classroom? We got to keep making plans for people that can come in and teach and do the things and all the things we did with our traveling outside of school, the sporting events and everything. I wanted to make everybody happy. And in the process, something had to go, and it was my own health because I didn't have time for that. But now I don't have
Wow.
time not to be,
Yes.
right?
No,
It takes a
absolutely.
far less time to make a healthy meal than it does to make an appointment at the doctor and to go to the doctor and da 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 da.
Preventative.
I like to avoid the doctor. Nothing personal. I
Yes.
just don't want to go any. I mean, I go to my naturopath and I do my checkups and I do the blood work so that we can keep making sure everything's good. But those are much more pleasant appointments than
Oh
otherwise.
yeah. I saw a quote one time. It was saying how if you don't take time for health, it will make time down the road for it, basically, in the other sense.
And that's what it did for me for those several months that I just had to stop working completely because I couldn't, and I had to change things because I knew if I didn't, I couldn't go back to work and keep doing the same thing. I had to learn, I had to see counseling, get counseling so I could learn how to put healthy boundaries up between my job
Good.
and my personal life. That was important too, because I had to have the time to do those things like exercise and,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, do what I needed to do. And I couldn't do it if I was continually saying, oh, sure, I'll have the band go do this. I'll have them go play at that. So I had to learn what's healthy, what's not. And when I set up boundaries, I actually became a better teacher because it wasn't like, oh, we'll just do an extra rehearsal after school. Nope. Nope. We're going to get it done in class now. So we all need to be more intentional about doing that. And things like that. And so reprioritizing and sitting down with my student leadership, what's important for us to do in the school and the like. What are our goals as ensembles and as students and as groups? And then when things come in, ideas, hey, could you do this? We already have sort of a filter. Well, these are our things that are important. Is this supported or not? And if not, we didn't do it. But if it did, it's either a hell yes or it's a no. That's how
I
we got.
see.
And then the things we did, we had buy-in from the students and it was a healthier balance, but then we weren't doing a lot of piddly little things that were just wearing people out. And, students have lives too. They
Oh
have
yeah.
studying and homework and jobs and families and friends and those things. And so when I had a healthier balance, I think I gave a healthier outlook to my students. They could do fewer things and really enjoy them, but not be so overwhelmed that band had to be their whole life.
Absolutely. So you really had a complete like 180, a complete transformation, not just physically and mentally, but with setting the boundaries, learning how to set boundaries, finding that balance with your career. And then it's amazing how that made everything more intentional and almost restructured and made everything more effective, efficient, and with purpose.
Intention. I think you just said it out right there. That's the big thing, is being intentional when we do things. That makes all the difference. And that's the mindful piece, right? Being mindful,
Yes.
being aware. Why am I shoving all these Fritos in my mouth? Just ask yourself, no judgment, just wondering why. Am I bored? Am I hungry? Does it really taste good? Is it because I need the crunch? I mean, just thinking about it. What's
Yes.
my intention with this? And
Wow. I
sometimes it's
love
because
that.
you just want the damn Fritos. But I changed to the point where if somebody offered me a bag of Fritos right now, I'd be like, no, thank you, because my body wouldn't accept it now. After you do certain things, the
Yeah.
habits. And so if anybody were to try to offer me a alcoholic beverage at this point, my body's just like, no, no, that's not even on my radar anymore.
Isn't that amazing
And
how
I'm
you
not,
stop, you crave it, you don't crave it anymore.
no, not at all. I crave to be the person I am now and not what I was before.
Nice.
I just that's the old me. I had lessons that I learned, but that it was a coping mechanism because I'd come home from work and I was just so tired of making decisions. I mean, teachers make 10,000 decisions a
Oh,
day, and it's just,
yeah.
can I go to the bathroom? I have to decide if other people can use the bathroom, and then if they do, I have to write them a damn pass. I mean, it's just never ending, and so
Yeah.
it's exhausting.
Decision
But
fatigue.
decision fatigue is very real. But being intentional with systems that you set up then, things that you do, so that you can maybe not make so many decisions because you've set up some more systems in place as you start analyzing things. Am I doing this in the most efficient way possible so
I
that I
was,
can be healthier? I'm not spending 2 hours on something at work that I could do in 10 minutes. Be intentional.
and it's really interesting that the self development side, the self awareness, digging deep, how that was a huge part of that transformation. Because how you would examine what you're putting in your mouth. Am I doing this because I'm hungry? Because I'm bored? Because most people don't even think about it. It's just second nature. But half the time, most of us eat out of boredom or just for no reason. It's not usually intentional. So I love that. I love that. I feel like that should probably be like the title of this episode. Is like with intention. You like that?
I do.
All right. That could be it. Oh yes, your book. So your book sounds amazing. You wrote two books?
Well, actually, I just turned the manuscript in for book 4 on Monday.
Wow,
It comes out October
congratulations.
7th, so I'm pretty excited.
Nice. That's amazing. What's the title of each and what is each one about?
Well, the first one is called "I Love My Job, but It's Killing Me," and it's my story. It's through my eyes of
Okay.
how do you get your shit together. Okay, I hope I can swear on here. Sorry,
Yeah, you're good.
but the things that you can do when your own health, assess your own health, where you are, where do you want to be, and that book helps you find your way there. So it's a lesson plan because teachers make lessons. So it's to help people get their own act together. My second book is called "Love the Job, Lose the Stress," which is a terrible title when you finish the manuscript 10 days before school shut down for the pandemic.
At the
And all of
time,
a sudden, every teacher on the planet's like, Zoom, what am I doing? What? There was more stress than you can imagine. And I had this
that's
book come out with that
funny.
title. That was super embarrassing. But that book is, the first one's how to get your shit together. The second one is how to get your classroom shit together, right? How do you go into classroom and kind of, because middle school and high school classrooms can be chaotic and
Oh, yeah.
crazy. And what are some systems you can put in place to protect you and to make it easier for your students and you to function? So I help people do that. And I talk a lot about that mindful piece and teaching kids through breath work to control their own physiological body responses, teaching them how to, take a breath before you respond instead of just reacting like this because they're a little hormonal. And so that's what the second book. My third book is actually this skinny little one called Meal Planning Made Easy, and it's using Chat GPT prompts that I've pre-written for people for menu planning, so they can go in, because
That's
I do it.
cool.
I can in 20 seconds go in and get my menu plan for the month or for the week. On Sunday afternoons I do that, and then it'll make my grocery list for me, and then boom, you can pop it in Instacart and have your groceries delivered. But I've got
Wow.
meals planned. It knows all my preferences for me, but I teach people how to use chat and AI to help them through that process
So cool.
of meal planning. And then my fourth book that comes out is called The Balanced Band Director. And I would go do keynote speeches and all this and talk about, help being healthy and being mindful of your movement and your meals and all this. And people go, this is great, I get it. And then they're like, but I don't have time. And I started to realize, yeah, it is hard to find this time. My fourth book here is teaching teachers how to do things that leverage things like AI and other things they can do to get time. how can you use it ethically, morally, and efficiently to do as good as or better job than you can do when you're tired at the end of the day and trying to get stuff done? How can it help alleviate some of that so that you can do the things you need to do to protect your own health and to have the time for your own family even? So it's how do you find that balance and what are the tools that you can use? And I give, examples, copy and paste they can use into AI to teach them how to use it, and then some other tricks I've got for streamlining things in the classroom. So
That is
it's just
so
I'm just
cool.
a big band nerd who just loves talking about it and making sure that people can do this career for a long time because it's been an amazing career, and I think it's such an important work, with kids, and
But
I just want to
yes,
help people have the stamina to do it
for
sustainably.
sure. Honestly, each one of those titles sounds so, it's so catchy. It's very creative, and I love those titles. I know the second one was Bad Timing, but now that we're past that, it really is a catchy title. And they sound very valuable. I like how each one is a different focus and like very valuable for, all types of teachers, new teachers, teachers who have been teaching for a long time to systemize. And also, I like the way you systemize. I'm curious. Have you ever taken like a personality test, like the Myers Briggs, or
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
what?
Oh, wait. So I'm feeling intuitive. What INFP? What
INFP,
no,
INTJ,
I
IN.
I'm all the woo woo. Not that my husband's an engineer, so he and I are like total opposites on it. That's why we're really good together because he
I
does all the.
see. INFJ.
I think yeah, it's an intuitive something feeling, and no, J is judging. I'm not the judging. It's a
Okay.
perceptive for something. So
Interesting. Okay. So I
my mom,
recognize.
we did those. Yeah, I've done those multiple times. I should know by now what the letters are.
That's funny. Yeah, I think it's so fascinating how everyone's so different. And I recognize how you like to systemize because that's a very valuable, very valuable thing. And most people don't like the structure and the systemize, and I love the structural side. And so I'm INTJ, so I feel like we have some similarities. I can't remember the breakdown, but that's awesome.
Well,
That's
systems
cool.
end up helping, but they're hard because you have to invest the time into building them correctly and implementing them. You got to set them up in ways that work for you, right? It's like if like when you move into a house and you go to organize your kitchen, you have to look at where is my dishwasher versus and where my silverware going to go here. You have to what do I already have that I can be in control of, what's not in control of, and you have to figure those things out. And that's like whether you're on a job site or in a home or whatever, what's in place, what do I have to work with, and how can I do it most efficiently, because I don't want to open my dishwasher, take a knife, and walk across my kitchen to the silverware drawer. That's stupid.
Yes, that's
Okay,
true.
so you have to look at the big picture, and then what can I control and what can I control, and then how do I do it efficiently? Because I'm a time saver.
Sys, yeah, and systems change your life. They create the freedom. The structure creates the freedom for sure. I mean, every business is has the structure in place, the subgroups, the how it functions. Every business, everything, society. I was gonna say I also like how you have mindset and movement because I always preach mindset, movement, momentum, nutrition, and lifestyle to kind of bring together. And so definitely in alignment with that. And I feel like more people need to become aware of that wellness foundation. How to sort of step into taking control of their health and wellness. So it's really cool that you're the perfect example of that with taking control of your health and wellness.
I'm a control freak, honestly. I mean, most teachers are. A lot of moms are too, right?
True, true.
And so I feel like I have so much more control now than I did before. I was a victim before. I had to have the back surgeries. I had to wear the back brace. I had to, all of the things, and I was sick all the time. Just all of those things. It was always I was the victim, and I changed that completely.
That's amazing, really. It's cool to like when you change from the inside out how much
Mm-hmm.
everything changes.
The opportunities that show up when yeah, it's been a pretty amazing journey.
Oh, yeah, it sounds inspiring. With your keynote speaking, so you've spoken on subjects like this in front of at the school or other places.
I know I've actually everything from New York Educators National Conference to was just in Chicago recently and did a big session there. I go to conferences. I've done them virtually and in person. It's something
Wow,
when I wrote my first book, I was like, this opened up a lot of doors for me, and it's pretty cool to get to go do those things and meet people and yeah. And to hear
that's
people
so
who have said,
cool.
"Hey, I've read your book. I did this, and I feel better. I've lost the weight, or I'm sleeping better, or my classroom is different." And it's like, that's
Wow.
so cool. That's so cool.
That is so cool. I'm honored to have you on this podcast. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Really, that's amazing. With the, how did you get into the? So once you wrote your first book, they reached out to you, or you pitched different places your
When I wrote
message?
my first book, I hired someone to help me learn because I wanted to write a book, but I was like, I don't even know where to start. So I hired somebody, and she taught me the process, and then she taught me about marketing. And that book became like a calling card because that book title on a thumbnail or an email signature suddenly
Yes.
that credibility. People knew that to write a book, you got to do some work behind it. You have to understand what you're talking about, and there's usually a personal reason. So you can talk about stories, and you can do those things. Excuse me. And so I started doing it, and it was resonating with people, and I just say yes whenever I can now. As long sometimes I have to stay at school and do the things, but I have had so many opportunities open up and I've gotten to meet so many people, and it's just inspiring to me to see what a difference was able to make just by doing the first book. And now everything after that has just been like it led me to a podcast because I had people now that wanted to talk about these things. And
True.
so I was like, well, yeah, I was writing that fourth book, but it takes a long time, right? I just turned the manuscript in. Now it goes through the editing process and the cover design, and then blah blah blah. It won't even be out in bookstores till October 7th. Or the ebook
Okay.
will be, yeah. So that's a long process. So the podcast thing was like, hey, I've got information, and I'm not the end all be all person who knows everything, but now I'm known for talking about this. So I get people coming on my podcast who can expand on it, and so providing that resource has become something really important to me.
Oh, yeah,
And I'll have
that's
my 100th episode on May 28th. It comes out.
nice. Congratulations. A lot of things to celebrate.
Yeah, and I
That's
started that
cool.
on a whim in May, so it'll be 2 years, 100 episodes.
100 episodes. Wow. No, that's definitely amazing. I feel like this should be like a movie.
Oh,
Seriously.
there we go.
Like that could be next. You could write the script. I'm serious. People love inspirational stories. Seriously. Have you thought about having a community of random question? I know it's a little irrelevant, but there's a platform called School, Skool, where you can create communities. Like people can, it could be free, or you could charge like $5 a month, $20 a month, and you do like monthly web. Yeah, it's really
I'm
powerful.
taking notes. Skool. I'll be checking that out
Yeah, it's
really
from
soon.
by Alex Hormozy, who's an entrepreneur. But he is really easy. You can create like a classroom section with different education. You can have a calendar. You can do like a monthly webinar or whatever you want to do. But you can charge people, so you could leverage your audience very easily. I'm not there yet since I don't have that big of an audience yet. But it sounds like you have a following, and it's an easy way for them to support you. Yeah, yeah. Let me know what you think. A few more questions, a couple more questions. With your fitness journey, do you I'm curious to hear your general routine in the fitness section. Do you stick with yoga? Do you do some cardio? Do you do some weight training? What does your typical week look like?
I love walking. And where I'm in Seattle, and it's been really crappy weather, so sometimes I do the treadmill at the gym, which I hate. I hate it, but I do it. But I prefer walking outside when I can take my dog and be outside. So when it's nice out, that's lovely. I usually breathe 3.5 miles. But my mom is in her 80s and she walks 5 miles a day, and my dad is in his 80s and he walks 3.5 miles a day. So
Nice.
yeah, I see them, and I'm like, that's going to be me because they
Yeah,
still do it on a daily basis. So walking is a big part of what I do. Yes, yoga because I like the calm, I like the quiet, I like what how my flexible my body has become as I age. It's getting more flexible. How
that's
fun is
amazing.
that? And then I love aerial yoga. Hanging upside down. Actually
Ooh,
got one of those. Oh my gosh, the blood rushes into your head when you're upside down. It's just like it's that circulation going. If I start to get really bad headaches, I'll just hang upside down. I look like a bat downstairs. But yeah, it's great.
that's
So
cool.
yeah, those are my biggies. And then okay, what else was I going to tell you? It's a fitness journey.
Yeah. Oh, your routine.
And then just recently, as I approach 60, I'm realizing bone mass, and I want to be more careful. So I said to my husband 6 months ago, I said, I think we should go to the gym and start doing some weight resistance. Now, listen, I'm not building up gigantic. I'm not a Guinness Book of World Records person at all, but I'm doing enough so that I can stay strong and
Oh
healthy.
yeah,
And so if I trip over my dog, I don't want to break.
absolutely.
And so we added that piece, and we go together 2, 3 times a week. And I mean, we're the old
Good.
farts in the gym, and I do a little cardio, and I go do our weights, and it's 30 minutes of that several times a week. But that's where we are. So it's the walking, yoga, and a couple times a week in a gym. And it's working. I feel really, really good
Yeah.
mentally and physically.
Honestly, it sounds like a perfect balance because you have the weight training, you have the cardio, you have the mobility, flexibility. It's a nice balance.
Yeah, it is actually the balanced band director. See, I really am. That's my new
Could be
book.
the next book. Yeah,
It is.
that's
That's the
awesome.
title.
Oh, really?
That is the title.
That's the fourth book.
Yeah, the fourth.
You did say that. Yeah, that's funny. Actually, a random question. Are you going to write a fifth book?
Oh my gosh, it's like asking a woman who just had a baby, "Hey, you want to have another one?" I'm still in the like, haven't even finished the final edits, but I don't know. I really honest haven't.
Okay, all right.
Some of the things I've been doing actually are journals. I've created some journal stuff with because people are busy, right? So it's a I call it preludes and coda journal. Prelude in music is the part that comes at the beginning, right? So like
Yes.
your quick morning reflection, and then the coda in music it means the ending, and so the coda is a quick evening reflection, and then just a little 5 stars color in the kind of day you had. So again, people can start just 5 minute maximum, and they can go back and look over the course of a month. Hey, I was having some 5 star days here. What was going on those days, kind of things. But it's just real quick. And so
That.
creating the journals and those kinds of things, I think, are really helpful tools that supplement the book nicely. So I probably had another couple of those smaller things out before I do another big book.
That's a great idea. That's really creative. Yeah, I like that. And that's also trending with the direction of holistic and mental health. And I feel like it's perfect timing for all of that.
I
That's
think so.
awesome. Oh, yeah. I've got two more questions for you. Actually, random question. This has nothing to do with.
These ones make me nervous.
I actually have another brand that's travel related, and it just reminded me. I'm working on building that one after this one, but I know the Pacific Northwest is big. It's a part of your culture. And I really want to know because I stayed at an Airbnb in the Redwoods. And I remember I asked the lady, the owner of the Airbnb, and I was like, is Bigfoot real? Because throughout history, there's accounts, all of this. And she's like, let me tell you. She's like, I've seen it. And she's like, oh, they go swimming off the cove all the time. And she made it sound so normal and so casual. I don't know if it was some crazy person or if that's a part of the culture. What's your take on that?
Okay, so back in the 70s when I was in elementary school, I remember, there were Bigfoot sightings everywhere and all. And we used to sit at recess with our backs up against the brick school building, looking out into the wooded area. And we would sit there and we swore. I'm sure it was older kids running around back there. But oh, there's Bigfoot, and we'd just psych each other out. But I don't know if I ever really saw Bigfoot. He probably wasn't. I don't think we'd have outdoor recess if there were really those Bigfoot things running around in the area right by the schools. So I don't know if it's real, but as elementary kids, we sure hoped it was.
Okay, that's a good answer. So maybe, maybe not. We don't know. Okay, but the other question was, if you could give yourself some advice, if you can go back maybe 15 years and give yourself some advice, what would you tell your younger self? Really?
I was so uptight and such a people pleaser that my anxiety was through. I wouldn't sleep because I'd worry about am I doing all the things. And I think I've chilled out a lot as I've gotten older and done these things that have helped me, sit and breathe and calm down and like slow my heart rate down and do those things. And I didn't know how to do that. I thought that, I just didn't even think about it as a kid, or as a younger person. And so I wish I had chilled out a little bit, maybe been a more present mom. I feel like when my kids were younger, I justified it because my kids are 4 years apart. So for 12 consecutive years, they were part of my program. It's ninth through 12th grade, and then the next one would come through. So all the extra stuff I was doing during those 12 years, I justified in my head because, well, my kids are part of it too. So as a mom and as a teacher. But then I think about when they were real little, yeah, they went and did everything with me, but were they doing my stuff with me? And maybe I could have done more. I don't know. I had a lot of guilt I lived with. And I wish I could have been more present as a mom.
I see, and it's interesting. That seems to be a reoccurring thing, including myself. I feel the same way, but a reoccurring thing where people tend to wish they relaxed and took it easy instead of stressing so much. But we all did our best.
Well, we get told these are the things you got to do to be successful. And a lot of us just, that's okay. I'm going to check all those boxes. I got to do the
Yes.
things and I got to do them in this order and by this certain age. I was 32 years old. I had 3 children by then. And I was running this gigantic high school program and I was in the middle of getting a master's degree. And it's no wonder that on the rare times I didn't have an evening event, I'd come home and dinner, a balanced meal for me sometimes was a glass of wine, a glass in one hand and the bottle in the other. I never drank like to pass out, or I never drank and wet anywhere or anything. It was just when I was home, but I started to rely on that. And I think it was, as I look back, it was my anxiety would be so high. I didn't know how to calm myself down. I guess we call it self-medicating now. But I mean, because I would feel better short term. Short term, I would feel better when I took
I
pain
see.
pills, right? Or when I took or drank alcohol because it would, for a short term, be okay. But the long term effect, I wasn't I wasn't just feeling the feelings and working through them or deciding I don't like this feeling, now I got to change things. It took me a long time to get there. So I wish I had all that wisdom when I was younger, but here we are.
Yeah, and I mean, you've learned so much and you're sharing so much with others. So it's, it's made you who you are. Yeah, no, definitely inspirational. Last question is the what's next for you? How are you going to continue to excel beyond boundaries? I know I asked you about the next book, but do you have any upcoming speaking engagements or anything like that?
Yeah, I've got like some music educator conferences to go present at, go do those things. I want to do more of that, and I'm having to say no a lot because of school. I may teach up to 2.5 years more unless those become so many no's that financially it pays off to go ahead and stop teaching now because we're not quite there yet, but it's work, it's pretty cool. So between that and the speaking, and then I've been having a blast conducting honor bands. I just 42 years ago, I was in the, what, 1982, so 43 years ago, a little more. I was in the Washington All-State Band, and that experience was unreal. Top kids in the state get to go and work with the director, and they give this huge concert after just a couple days. And it was just like, oh my God, the band nerd's dream. And I remember sitting in that going, someday I'm going to conduct an all-state band. And I
Wow.
did this past
Wow.
February. So I'm getting to go out and conduct all these amazing groups and do that. So that, and then meeting their directors. So the combination of working with other people besides my own students and all these conferences and presentations, I am loving it because I'm still teaching because
Yeah,
that's just who I am. And it's just new content. Sometimes they like the health related stuff, but then sometimes it's music students at the all state groups and stuff. So
that's
it's,
cool.
yeah, those kinds of things. More of those as I transition out of teaching eventually here.
I like that. No, it's cool because I can tell you're passionate and excited about it, and it's so cool to hear that you knew that you wanted that so long ago, and then you did it. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's been a journey.
Wow,
Pretty awesome one.
that's awesome. No, I'm so glad. I really appreciate you joining this episode. And I've been telling all of my guests recently that the first 25 or first 30, once I have more traction and it's a bigger platform, I would love to interview them down the road as well. So once it's a bigger podcast, I'd love to have you back on. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leslie. I appreciate it. You did
Yeah,
great. That was a lot of value.
thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes episode number 26.